You can't do nothing else, and if you don't feel like coming from behind your doors, get on your knees and say a prayer for this family. Because when one hurt, we all hurt in this community. So please, lift this family up in prayer. Lift my nephew up in prayer. The father of the child, please lift up the mother of this young lady. Lift her up. You know, should nobody have to bury their child.
This is Love Hurts. Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that notification bell for future content. 23-year-old Kiana Foote was playful, down-to-earth, free-spirited, fun, crazy, and just overall the turn-up queen. She loved to cook, especially for her family and friends, and she had a heart of gold. She was a complete sweetheart. Everyone who met her absolutely loved her. She really knew how to have a good time, and she was all about living life to the fullest. Kiana grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and life hadn't always been easy. She definitely experienced her fair share of struggle and loss, but the unexpected murder of her brother in 2013 changed her life forever. He was murdered by a close friend, and the killer was acquitted on all charges. From that moment on, Kiana knew as soon as she was old enough, she wanted to get out of La Crosse for good. Kiana was the mother of a 2-year-old baby girl named Mayana, and she was the absolute apple of her mother's eye. If you ever spent time with Kiana and her baby, it was clear to see Kiana was completely in love with her daughter, and the love between them shined brightly. Things didn't work out between Kiana and Mayana's father, but that didn't stop her from finding love again. She eventually settled down in Rochester, Minnesota, and in the beginning of 2020, she started dating 29-year-old Renard Carter. The relationship moved quickly, and within 4 months, the couple was living together, and Kiana was pregnant with their first child. Things moved so fast, Kiana had no idea who she was really dating and pregnant by. Renard was a woman abuser. He had a lengthy criminal history that included convictions for domestic violence and stalking. At the time that he and Kiana met, he had just been released from prison after serving time for violating a domestic abuse no-contact order on another woman. With a criminal history like that, it was clear to see that his relationships did not end well, and within a month of him and Kiana living together, their relationship went haywire. But on September 10th of 2020, things went from bad to worse. On September 13th of 2020, after 3 days of not hearing from Kiana, her family was worried and they decided to visit her apartment to check on her and baby Mayana. What they found when they opened the door was completely unimaginable. The body of 2-year-old Mayana was located near the living room and she had been beaten to death. Not far from her was pregnant Kiana, who had also suffered the same fate. Police knew exactly who was responsible for the murders after they checked Renard's Facebook account. Apparently, he had sent Facebook messages to someone stating that he was going to kill his pregnant girlfriend and her 2-year-old daughter, as well as his other baby's mother who lived in South Carolina. And as if that wasn't enough evidence, police say Renard live-streamed part of the murders on Facebook. After the murders of Kiana and Mayana, Renard fled to South Carolina to finish the job. But the South Carolina authorities got word that he was on his way, and they quickly got in contact with his first child's mother and put her in protective custody. Renard was later located at a hotel in Columbia, South Carolina, where he got into a standoff with police. Police say he threatened to kill them, and he came out of his hotel room pointing a gun at them. So they fired shots, injuring but not killing him.
Thank you so much. A man who was shot by Richland deputies last night is suspected of killing his pregnant girlfriend and her child in Minnesota. And investigators say he came here to kill another woman.
An arrest team went to make an arrest. They verbally tried to talk him out of the room. He was making threats through the door to the officers outside the room, told them that he had a gun, had a rifle, and that he was going to shoot them. At some point around 10:10, he opened the door to come outside the room with a gun in his hand. We had 2 Lexington County deputies and a SLED agent fired upon him, and he was hit.
This is the weapon Sheriff Lott says the suspect approached officers with inside the Aloft Hotel. The sheriff says it's a BB gun. Investigators tell us the suspect is 29-year-old Renard lled Carter, and he fled to Columbia from Rochester, Minnesota after killing his pregnant girlfriend and her 2-year-old daughter. Police in that state say Carter killed the two on Thursday, and their bodies were found in the victim's Rochester apartment on Sunday. According to Sheriff Lott, Rochester PD informed them Carter was in the area, so they launched a joint investigation with Lexington County, SLED, and the Columbia PD to find him.
And his intent to come to Columbia was to kill an ex-girlfriend here.
Sheriff Lott says they located Carter's ex-girlfriend and put her in a safe house until he was apprehended.
They were able to make an arrest. EMS came and treated him, and he has now been put in a hospital where he's being guarded.
After Renard was extradited back to Minnesota, he entered a guilty plea, and Kiana's family spoke with reporters about how they hope he is never allowed out of prison.
The family members of Kiana Foote, her unborn child, and her daughter Mayana Miller tell us they hope the suspect, Renard Carter, is never released from prison.
I don't even call him a man or a human being, because someone like him to do something that heinous and that evil, it was, one of the hardest things that I've ever endured throughout life. And it was almost as if, like a out of body experience that I cannot believe what was actually going on.
Eventually, Renard was sentenced to 90 years in prison for the murder of Kiana, her unborn child, and Mayana.
Well, Jess, as tears were flowing down the faces of family members this afternoon, it was evident loved ones of Kiana Foote and Mayana Miller are still struggling with the loss they've grappled with for more than a year now, and struggling to understand how anyone could murder a pregnant woman and her 2-year-old child. After days of deafening silence in September of 2020, Brandy Lee Williams stopped by the Olympic Village Apartments to check in on her pregnant daughter, 23-year-old Kiana Foote. What she saw inside would forever haunt her: the lifeless body of her 2-year-old granddaughter, Mayana Miller, with Foote's body later found at the apartment with a charging cable wrapped around her neck. Nowhere to be found was 30-year-old Renard Carter, the father of Foote's unborn child, but clues quickly emerged on social media, with Carter having live-streamed some of Foote and Miller's final moments as he strangled them to death. More than a year after the gruesome killings, Carter has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder and will serve a 1,078-month sentence. 2/3 of that time will be spent in prison, with the final third under supervised release, a benefit all Minnesotans are granted unless formally sentenced to life in prison.
To hear about the way that their family members were treated and the way their lives were taken is very traumatic for families. And so if we could achieve a plea agreement that would achieve both of those goals, a very long sentence that would effectively be a life sentence, as well as preventing them from having to go through trial, that was the goal. And we feel good about the fact that each of those goals were achieved.
After learning his fate, a defiant Carter apologized for making Foote, quote, kill her daughter and strangle herself, a claim out of step with his plea agreement. Mayana Miller's father then rushed the stand, having to be held back by sheriff's deputies. Woodford says evidence collected by investigators doesn't support Carter's claim.
We don't think that things happened that way. Secondly, as Judge Hain rightly pointed out, that wouldn't mean he was not guilty. In fact, in some ways it would make his conduct more monstrous.
And as Carter was escorted out of the courtroom, he smiled and joined in on the applause of family members. Jess?
My heart truly goes out to the family of Mayana and Kiana. They did not deserve to lose their life this way. If you are in a domestic abuse relationship, create an out plan and get out now. Once you are out, do not turn back. Turning back can cost you your life. As always, loves, don't forget to stay safe. Thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future content.